This is Corey.
And I'm Sharonda.
And this is Until Forever. This is a relationship podcast. We do not claim to be gurus or experts. We just want to share our story with you. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, it's okay. It's no big deal. It's our story. It's not yours. But you have a story too. We want to hear from you. Feel free to send us messages or reach out or comment or whatever, because we want to interact with each other. Is that all right? I'm talking to you.
I thought you were talking to them. Yes, that's fine.
It better be. Episode 18, right?
Yes, episode 18.
Man, it's hard to believe we've done 18 of these, but I guess we have done 18 of these, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Like, this is awesome. But we are in a series right now where we're talking about toxic couples. And last week, we talked about the nasty Miss Laura Winslow and how selfish and mean and ignorant she was to our boy Steve, who was his own person. He was genuine. He kept it real. He didn't have low self-esteem, even though the odds were stacked against. Could you imagine having to walk like that all your life? That's crazy. But he still made it in the windy city of Chicago. And I'm sure that was back when gangbanging was big. And he made it out the hood. Was he in the hood? What side of Chicago was he in?
They were not in the hood. They were on the west side of Chicago,
I guess.
Okay, so we had a listener write in about last week's episode. So I want to read that response before we jump into this week's.
We did.
So it says, "Hey y'all, love the podcast. Had some thoughts about the example used in your recent episode. There was nothing about Laura and Steve's relationship on Family Matters that should have ended with them dating or even getting married.
Nope.
There's nothing wrong with being persistent, but I think Steve's character was beyond persistent and eventually moved into the territory of harassment.
Yep.
Laura was clearly disinterested from day one. Instead of accepting her disinterest, he allowed his infatuation to fuel his efforts to find more ways to be in her space. He followed her around. He followed Eddie, Carl, and the mom, and the rest of the family. While it was clear his parents were absent and disinterested in being bothered with him, the Winslows and their level of tolerance with him was unrealistic. However, even with us knowing that this is purely television, we learn from the things we see, and if there is a TV show on air for 10 years, and their star character is harassing his love interest and her family like this, and this is a show people grew up watching, this technique to capture your love interest attention can be a learned behavior. We see it all the time, especially in the age of social media. Someone is infatuated with someone and won't take the hint that the feelings aren't reciprocated, and before they know it, they and some unsuspecting third party are being featured on the Shade Room for fighting in the club or getting arrested. There's also a lot to be said about Laura and how she treated Steve. When the series started, she was already being mean to Steve. We got a bit of their backstory, but she'd essentially always been mean to him and would communicate with him in ways that suggested she did not acknowledge he was a human with feelings. Same thing as before. This was a show we grew up watching on TV regularly, and to see this so frequently, to turn someone down or to put someone down so easily with such harsh words can be a learned behavior. She wasn't even just mean on her own. She encouraged it from others. Yet somehow she and Steve end up together romantically, and that makes absolutely no sense. Don't get me wrong, I watched the show when it was on the air and every rerun I could find after it ended. But infatuation induced harassment that is responded to with rejection that toes the line of bullying does not end up with two people in a romantic relationship, and I think that's the part people seem to miss in real life when emitting these types of behaviors. Just some thoughts. I completely agree. I don't think that, I'm clearly programming is far more planning, and what you want to the audience to receive goes into all of the programming that is on television now, for the most part, especially family shows, if there are any. But back then, I think people just thought it was harmless, like puppy love. Which kind of draws us into our topic for this week's toxic couple. So you want to introduce them?
Nope.
Okay. Is that because you don't remember who it is?
Maybe.
Okay. So, okay. So we said we were going to talk about not being able to leave someone alone, which the listener letter kind of leads us into. So a couple of couples that we can look into that did that is Golden Girls. We have Dorothy and Stan, which are two exes. They are divorced when the show starts, and they kind of have this chemistry where they keep having these moments where like they think maybe this could work out, or then there's no way this could work out. But because they have the history with years of marriage, they just kind of have this weird relationship all the way up until the series finale, when Dorothy is getting married to someone else and Stan is driving the limo that she's on her way to the church in, and he's trying to stop her. And then we also wanted to discuss Ross and Rachel from Friends, who they never dated when they were younger, from the backstory of the show. But after they finally do date, then it's kind of like this back and forth with them as well. Even though on the very last episode, we're just supposed to expect the fact that they finally end up together and live happily ever after. But, we're just kind of left with that as the audience.
Okay, so you said a whole lot, and we need to go back and unpack some of that. That first couple you mentioned, by the way, if you don't watch the Golden Girls, like, are you really watching anything at all? Because it's one of the greatest shows that network television has ever seen.
It's pretty hilarious,
and
you guys.
I mean that with every fiber of my being. That show has stood the test of time. They dealt with all sorts of issues, all sorts of categories.
Seriously.
Anything that you could think of, they brought it up on the show. From homosexuality to AIDS and infectious diseases to racism to witchcraft. All of it is right there in that one show.
Ageism.
No, definitely ageism. But it's crazy that, first of all, watching the show, you get uncomfortable because you see old people talking about sex. That's nasty. But second of all, I think it is very toxic. And let's talk about Stan. Let's talk about the fact that throughout that entire show, even though he was with the hussy he left Dorothy for, or I guess Dorothy left him behind for, he never, ever, ever let go of Dorothy. And the entire time, he allowed their past to keep them connected. They owned property at some point. He kept investing their money into different avenues. And, he would always just show up at the house unannounced whenever he wanted. Like, these are all toxic behaviors that I think if you haven't dealt with in the past, it's because you were the person exhibiting those toxic behaviors. I hate to be that way. I hate to bust anybody out. But I've even done that in the past. Sharonda's tried to run from me before, and I just showed up at the house. Let me get my crazy eyes right there. If you're not watching this
is before we were married.
You should see these crazy eyes right now.
He called me at my job once, you guys.
That's what we're supposed to do. I ain't trying to figure that. But Stan and Dorothy were divorced, and the toxicity, if I'm saying that
my
right,
gosh, just don't say that word.
I love saying that. The toxicities in that is that he didn't know how to let go. How many of us today have trouble letting go?
Let it go.
Because of,
let it go.
I don't know, it could be any reason. It could be comfort. It could be it's all you ever knew. Clearly with Stan, if we really unpack that, I think that he was exhibiting some what do you call it when you need a person because of their stability, because he definitely wasn't stable, but Dorothy was his stability. Dorothy was who held their family together clearly. He was out trying to make stuff happen, going left and right, and she stayed consistent and solid. And whenever he always showed up at the house, it was because they had issues. He had issues and problems, and he needed her to help to fix something. Like that episode when the IRS was after them.
Oh yeah. and she ended up pawning like the only gift Stan gave her, which was some jewelry, and he went and got it back. But yeah, he only showed up when something was wrong, and he wanted her to help him get bailed out of it. But I would say, I would agree. The toxic traits are definitely...
Wait, say it.
The toxic traits...
No, toxicities.
No. The toxic traits are definitely obvious here in this relationship. It's the problem is that they don't, or more so Stan doesn't know how to let go of Dorothy, because the backstory that we get from all of the jokes and the stories that they share at the kitchen table, the jokes from Sophia's character, is that Dorothy got pregnant as a teenager in high school, and then she ended up marrying Stan because she was pregnant. And then after years of him cheating on her constantly, they get a divorce because he was leaving her for like this other character that we see like once or twice. But we just constantly hear about her. And then that relationship ends up over, and he's just constantly like pining after Dorothy. Very toxic, I think.
It is. And there's method behind our madness here, because we picked them and Ross Geller and the Miss Thing. What's her name?
Rachel Green.
Can't stand Rachel. Or I might think more ill toward Rachel than I do Laura. I think I do. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about it. Because there are some similarities there. There really are. Because there's a stability that Ross brings to the table when it comes to their lifestyle. I mean, when has
what stability is Ross bringing to the table?
He's educated. He's a paleontologist. He knows what he wants.
Okay.
He never wavered from who he loves.
Clearly doesn't know what he wants. He got married like 4 times.
But you don't understand. There's one common denominator why none of them marriages worked out.
Because he wanted Rachel. But one of the marriages was Rachel.
But who messed all that up?
He did.
How?
You're going to say Rachel messed it all up?
No, you tell me how he messed it up.
First of all, the first marriage, no one messed up but the wife because she was gay. But the second marriage...
Toxic.
The second marriage, yes. Rachel messed that up because, she wasn't going to go to the wedding because she knew she had feelings for Ross. And then she showed up at the wedding and he said Rachel's name when he was doing his vows.
That's the third.
That's the second.
Oh.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The third marriage is Rachel. They get married in Vegas.
That don't count.
It counted on the show because he kept telling her he had it annulled and he didn't. So then they had to actually get like a real divorce.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. Toxic.
So maybe it wasn't 4 marriages. Maybe it was just the 3.
Okay, here's a pet peeve of mine. And this happens in movies. And I understand why it happens. But it like the writer... like Meg, that's who that was, who wrote in, like she was saying.
I don't think. Okay.
You don't think what?
Nothing. I hope she's okay with her saying her name.
Well, we just said a piece of it. Don't nobody know the rest of it.
Okay.
Should we ask her?
It's too late now.
Uh-oh. Okay.
That's why I didn't say it.
Whatever. I'm sure she'll be fine. I don't even know who it is. You know who it is? Okay, so What was I saying? You threw me off. Oh, like the person who wrote in was saying, there, when it comes to you made me lose my whole thought. It was good. Toxic. What was it? Anyway, there is the level of mess that people carry with them into relationships. It'll always fall apart. It will always fail. And I think that with Ross and Rachel, man, I can't stand her. She stayed being indecisive, whichever one, because it's like she wants him, then she don't want him.
What?
Then she wanted him, then she didn't want him. And then she wanted to be with him, and then she didn't want to be with him. And then they were on the break, but then they weren't on the break. Like,
they were definitely on a...
Yeah, they was on the break.
Okay. No.
Oh, you just agreed they was on the break?
No, I'm not talking about that particular episode. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, like, they definitely had times where they weren't together and they were dating other people after their initial dating.
But then they would still have moments where they looking in each other's eyes.
Yeah, so then it was like the time where everybody went to the beach house and they thought they were going to get back together, but she wrote like the super long letter front and back, and he didn't finish reading the letter, and then they didn't get back together again.
And that's what I was going to say. That's my pet peeve. And it happens all the time in different shows, sitcoms and movies, where you have these two people who the whole audience, everybody's watching, is like, oh, they're perfect for each other. But for whatever reason, they don't get together. And it's always a communication thing. It's always if they would have just sat down and put everything out on the table, they'd probably be together.
Then they got pregnant. Accidentally.
Toxic.
So then they had a kid together. And then it was like, then Joey liked her, but she was pregnant by
weird.
Ross.
That was so weird.
It's just very toxic relationship.
That was so weird.
And personally, I think it's very unrealistic. I think Dorothy and Stan is realistic, but I think Ross and Rachel is unrealistic.
Huh? How you figure?
Dorothy and Stan is very realistic.
Yes.
They are divorcees. And
they're older. So
yes.
There's this whole ain't nobody else.
And they have been together since high school.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, there's this level of comfort and familiarity. And they keep having these issues that keep bringing them, this felt good to be able to work through this problem together. Mm-hmm. But there's this constant reminder to Dorothy like, oh, yep, never mind, you're a creep because you cheated on me all the time. And I don't want anything to do with you.
Okay.
That's very realistic.
Yes, it is.
But Ross and Rachel is not realistic to me.
Yes, it is.
It is not realistic to me.
You know what made it realistic? And you're saying to me that's not fair. It's realistic.
That's what we're doing. That's what we did last episode. That's what we're doing today.
Okay. To me it's realistic. And what made it realistic is the show Friends made it realistic. Because and I'm sure there were people who were doing that kind of stuff beforehand. But if you really like look at it from the outside in, like they was nastier than a mug. Like, because you're right, and I don't think they ever followed through with it. Because Joey and Rachel, they never followed.
They tried to date, but she kept laughing, and it wasn't right. It was weird, and they just stayed friends.
They were trying to force it though. Like how many circles got Friends in it where they didn't switch?
That's gross.
But how realistic is that? Does that not happen?
Are they really friends?
I mean, you wouldn't think so, but I mean, for today's standard,
that's because that's how Corey really was rolling back in the day.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, but that's how people are doing it. I'm telling you, like and it's not. I don't think it's something that's like. It's not like.
Theirs
talked about.
Okay. First of all you've got is Joey, Ross, and Rachel. You don't have anybody else.
but we wanted to see so many of them, and then the Chandler and Monica thing came out of nowhere. So it's like they created these illusions, like, okay, we supposed to all move to New York and live together, and eventually
create that illusion.
We gonna fall in love, like, because it's like this. It's like it became the fairy tale ending, like the ideal. Okay, so I think Monica and Chandler were more relationship goals than Ross and Rachel.
I agree.
But Ross and Rachel were clearly the front runners when it came to...
Yes, but so you didn't watch the reunion with me, or you were like halfway paying attention to it. Well, so on the reunion episode for Friends, it's on HBO Max. This is not a sponsored episode, but it's on HBO Max. And on the reunion episode, the writers say that was the one time they listened to the fans, because they realized the reaction they got from having this one-time thing that they were just going to let happen when they went overseas for Ross's wedding. They only intended for it to be a one-time thing, but that was the season finale, and they saw that the fans really enjoyed it. So they actually were like, well, let's write and see how this relationship goes. So that clearly was not their intention when they first thought of the show. Ross and Rachel was their intention when they first thought of the show, but Chandler and Monica is not. However, yes, Chandler and Monica could be seen as relationship goals. They're friends with benefits at first, and then they realize, no, I actually have feelings for this person. And then they move in together. They move in together. They get engaged. They get married. They're having issues, having kids. And at the end of the show, they buy a house and they're adopting. But Ross and Rachel, that was like a dragged out soap opera, just the two of them. Because she has no clue he likes her. Then she finds out he likes her, but he goes overseas for this work trip and meets Julie, and then they're dating, and then he finds out Rachel likes him when he wanted to sleep with Julie, and so he breaks up with Julie and gets with Rachel, and then they're officially dating. Then they break up because he's jealous of the guy she's working with, and then he sleeps with somebody when they thought they just broke up. Like, we were on a break episode, and Rachel's thinking everything's okay. They made up, they're getting back together, but then she found out that he slept with somebody. So then they're like, for real broke up. Then there's Paulo again. And then he goes ahead and meets Emily, and then he marries Emily. I don't know. I like Friends. I know people have this whole thing like Friends versus Living Single, but Friends is actually a decent show. And I can get where you think it's realistic, but I would hope somebody would not let something like that be drawn out for so long in real life. It was like forever.
Y'all see my face?
Forever. It took forever for them, and they had a kid together because they just decided to like go ahead and have fun sex with each other, and then she gets pregnant and keeps the baby, so now they have to raise a kid together.
Toxic.
It's very toxic, but I think it's unrealistic.
Who was in control of that relationship? Who do you think called the shots and allowed things to happen and pushed things to happen?
Rachel definitely was the one calling the shots.
Exactly.
Because
toxic.
Yeah.
Shame
it was
on
definitely
her.
On Rachel.
Shame. She really needed therapy.
What?
From daddy issues.
And Ross did too, so he could let her go. He couldn't let it go.
No, because they all lived together, and every time, and I know he didn't live there.
Thank you.
But every time he showed up, she was giving him googly eyes.
Oh my goodness.
We ain't see it. The camera was facing the other way, but she's looking at him.
Anyway, I think Dorothy and Stan are realistic
in the beginning.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Did you watch the reunion?
Yes, and you clearly misunderstood. They said they were interested in seeing where it could go, but every time that one person was interested, the other person was dating somebody, and nothing ever happened. So the first time they actually kissed was their first kiss on the set.
What was it that I said that was different?
You said there was an off-screen romance. There was no romance.
It was button.
Okay.
It was
Anywho.
button. But I agree with you, Dorothy and Stan.
Dorothy and Stan is realistic.
Especially when you get older in age.
I think anytime you have any type of history, older or younger, if you've had at least 10 years of history with somebody and then you decide to separate.
Okay, what's the other question? Did we answer all the questions?
There's one more.
Okay, I didn't, because I was gonna switch gears. Like,
what can we learn from them?
I was gonna be like, Argh.
Don't.
You sure? Because I really want to go here. I want. What can we learn from them? Go.
Yes.
I think. What?
You can switch gears anyway.
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna switch gears. What can we learn from them? I think we have to learn how to cut folks off.
Gotta be like Maya and move on.
I think you have to learn how to cut people off. I think we have to have enough respect for ourselves and where we see ourselves in the future to be able to say, my future, it don't include you, so I need to let you go so that we both can move on to bigger and better things. Now, that is so easy to say, but comfort, familiarity, and different things like that. Please don't have history. Like, you've been through so much together. You might got a kid or something together. Like, that kind of stuff, it will definitely keep you attached to where moving on is almost impossible, but you have to get to the stage to where you want sanity for your life and yourself more than you want it to be comfortable. And you can even care about somebody else so much that, you want them to be happy. So if you know that y'all ain't gonna work out, let them go so you both can be happy. Now, as far as Ross and Miss Thang, you gotta be able to talked about them. You gotta be able to spot a hussy across the room. In the beginning, they ain't wearing no bras. They was always just.
Oh my gosh, Corey!
Am I lying? If I'm lying, I'm flying.
Corey!
If I'm lying, I'm flying. If I'm lying, I'm flying. You gotta be able to spot them hussies across the room. He should have been left her alone.
Oh my goodness,
Ross. Rachel don't deserve Ross. Paleontologist. Smart guy, paid. You see the couch? That couch costs more than most people's apartment. Well versed, good guy, nice sense of humor, and her goofy behind just want Ralph Lauren shopping. I want to design. She ain't designed nothing. That entire show, she ain't designed. Well, first she
nothing. Was an assistant shopper.
Yeah, gonna clean up for the hussy. Go ahead.
And then she was a buyer.
So that's what I learned. You better hurry up if I switch gears.
For Stan and Dorothy from Golden Girls, I think that we can learn that you just shouldn't go down that what if road again. Because they definitely tried it, and it was like he still proved to be everything that he was before. And then for Ross and Rachel, I would say that if I have to go through all these hoops and stages to be chosen by you, then I deserve better. So I do agree with Corey in that light. If this were a realistic situation, I would be like, Ross, you deserve better, man. You should think better about yourself. But teenage college student Sharonda was just very happy to see Ross and Rachel get together at the end of Friends.
Not me. Not me.
But if I was looking at it in a realistic manner, I would be like, Ross, dude, like, you deserve better. Move on. Snap out of it.
So, your hair looks really nice. I'm looking at you in the monitor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Go and flick it one time.
What?
You know what to do.
I don't.
No, not like that. You tried to do the quick flick. No, go on and do like
I
that.
don't know. All right.
Do it.
So, guys,
That's
thank
it.
you
I'm switching
so
gears.
much.
All right. This is what I want to know. We've been ending in 32 minutes. This is what I want to know. And y'all respond because we need to hear from y'all. We like hearing from y'all. Plus, this is hard, finding these couples. I want to know who y'all think our relationship goes. So feel free to reach out and tell us that. But how do you cut somebody off? Like, for real? Like, how do you do that?
My cutoff game is strong, so, you know.
Okay. But, like, what are the steps? Like, for real, I think people could use help because we all know somebody that need to cut somebody off.
Don't answer. Don't respond to text messages. Don't even give them the satisfaction of leaving them on red. Don't play the voicemail. Totally delete the number. Change or block their number if you need to. Change your number or block their number if you need to. And they will get the picture. Because anything further than that is harassment. And then you get the cops involved.
I think I'm too nice.
You're definitely too nice.
I'm too nice.
That's how he ended up stalking me.
I'm too nice.
Sort of, not really, but yeah.
Why would you say that? Anybody stalk you? Kind of messy. Because your hair look nice, you can say I've been out here stalking you.
You guys, I was ignoring Corey one time, so he asked my roommate, and she felt sorry for him and gave him the number to my job.
Okay, so first of all, I could have just grabbed the phone book. Second of all, if I was stalking
then why'd you go over there?
If I was stalking you, I'd have been hiding in bushes and in trees with binoculars. And because back then, you know, that was years ago, we didn't have Google and Find My Phone and all that. So we didn't have none of that stuff. So if I was stalking you, I'd have been like at the grocery stores, and you would look up.
You didn't come looking for me?
You would look up.
You didn't come looking for me?
Like,
did you come looking for me? Yes or no?
Where was you at?
Did you come looking for me?
At your house.
And where else?
I don't remember where else.
Okay. Somebody has amnesia. It's fine, though.
It is fine, because your cutoff game was strong, right? But here we are.
Bye. Oh, my God.